let's talk about letters of recommendation. When to ask, how to ask, what to include in your ask. Let's get into it. I'm Emily, and this is my monologues. Letters of recommendation are always so difficult to ask for. I know I always felt awkward when approaching it, but something I had to remind myself was that on rotations, when I'm asking my preceptor for a letter of recommendation, they're expecting it. So by asking, I was just doing what they expect me to do. So that took a weight off my shoulders. This is not their first rodeo. They've written plenty of letters before. They see it coming from a mile away, even if it feels like they don't. So just rip off the Band-Aid and ask. One of the things to include when you ask is to say, do you feel comfortable writing me a positive letter of recommendation? I've heard stories of people writing ones that are not so positive. For example, I heard a story of a student asking a physician for a letter of recommendation. The physician said, I don't feel comfortable writing you a positive one. Then the student kept pushing and saying, no, please write me a letter. And he's like, it's not gonna be positive. And she's like, no, please. And so he wrote one, and guess what? It wasn't positive. So if your preceptor is giving you a signal that like, no, or it won't be good, don't push it. Don't insist. I think the best way to ask for a letter of recommendation is in person during your rotation. I've received the advice before to say at the beginning of the rotation, I'm gonna be asking for a letter of recommendation at the end of it. That way it signals to them to pay attention to things you do well, to know what to write about in the letter. I never did this. I was never bold enough because I felt like I was just getting to know them at the beginning, but I've heard that advice from some people. I think doing it during your rotation is really important because if you wait too long and then email them after, they may not remember you. They see so many students, like, who can blame them? But asking during, when you're like, this is my face, this is me, this is Emily, I'm asking, they're like, okay, making that association. I would also suggest asking as many people as you can ask for a letter of recommendation. That's not to say, like on my OBGYN rotation, I had 4 different preceptors. I don't ask every one of those people for a letter, but you should ask for one from your OB rotation, from your family med rotation, unless you're dead set and you know exactly what you want to be. Having a lot of letters of recommendation to choose from when you approach your residency application is not a bad problem to have. You don't have to use all of them. You can pick and choose what you want to use. It's better to have too many than too few. So what I always did is I asked at the end of the rotation, one-on-one, but still on the rotation, would you feel comfortable writing me a positive letter of recommendation? Then that day or the next day, very quickly, I sent them an email. The ERAS website is a lot to learn, but one of the first things you should learn about it is that you can collect letters of recommendation on there even before you are like truly in the depths of the application cycle. So once your school has a login for you or you have a login for yourself, there's a way you can create a letter request on there to send to your letter writer. Once that letter request goes to that person, they fill it out, upload it, and then it is in ERAS, ready to use or not use, should you choose that. So within 24 hours of asking, I send that, and I also send an email to say, thank you for agreeing to be a letter writer for me, and then I include a little blurb of the positive things I hope I demonstrated on my rotation. If you think you demonstrated good bedside manner or curiosity, ask good questions and stuff like that, or demonstrated motivation to learn because you looked stuff up and then presented it, all of that is fair game to point out. I don't think there's anything wrong with guiding letter writers. Sometimes I think they appreciate it because they have so many to write. It is not the time to be shy. You should be proud of your strengths. Something else that I did that I was once asked to do that other letter writers liked is I included a little blurb about something I found inspiring on that rotation. I think that they liked this because they could choose to include it if they wanted to, but it also just demonstrated thoughtfulness. It was good just for my own benefit to reflect on that, but then also to include it in the letter request email. And almost most importantly, include your CV in that email. Make sure it's up to date, have it as a PDF, have it looked at by someone else, include it. Don't wait for them to ask. Another nice thing to do for your letter writers is to include your ERAS ID, maybe like within your signature line. It is in the letter request, so that you don't need to put it there, but it might be helpful to just make it again obvious for them to see if they need it. Some people give their letter writers a deadline, some people don't. It's up to you, but regardless, make sure you're giving them plenty of time to complete it before you start pestering them for reminders. They're busy, and as much heads up and time that you can give them, the better. And once it is uploaded to ERAS, it's nice to send them a little acknowledgement and a thank you too for their time. I know it's difficult and awkward, but you can do it. Muster the courage. You deserve to ask. You deserve to have a letter of recommendation written about you on your behalf. You can do it. Ask any questions or leave comments down below. I'll see you in my next video.